Today we're going to look at the EX jobs for Yerma, Etre, and Nasha. Now there's actually a lot of value in these units, so it's important that we do take a close look at them. I'll give you all the information you need to know so that you can decide whether or not you want to take them to their EX jobs. As always, I have to thank War of the Visions Calc for the information used in this video. So we'll talk quickly about the items needed to unlock EX jobs, and it's important to do this because these are the things that we can't necessarily get that easily. So the main thing are these broadstones that are specific to rarities, and now if you're going to have some MR broadstones, you could use them on Etre or Nasha, and you're not going to be limiting yourself from UR EX jobs. The Blossoms of Paradise, though, are shared across all rarities of EX job, and that's your major limiting factor. If you're not pulling on those 9 steps to get more of them, they can be quite tricky to get, so you have to make some very careful decisions. We're going to start by talking about Etre, who is currently a free unit that you can pick up and get all the shards for free. Every single day for this week, there is a 1 time a day quest that gives you 40 Etre shards, and then there are quests where you can just farm the shards by completing them, so you can get your 400 shards very easily. Everybody should do this. It doesn't matter if you're not going to EX her right away, you might at some point, and it's a really easy opportunity for you to get a 120 Earth MR or lower that you can use in the Earth selection quest, which is going to be the second selection quest that we get when you can get King Moraga. So I definitely recommend everybody takes advantage of these shards while you can. So at level 99, Etre was pretty unremarkable. She didn't really have anything going for her except her agility wasn't terrible at the time, and she has really good movement. Now, what she could do, and I used her all the time in PvP, was inflict status effects on people and heal status effects with her monk job. So I would use her in the tower to inflict doom on enemies that I just didn't have the unit for to kill them, and then the doom would take care of them, and if there was a lot of status effects, I would bring her as a way to remove those status effects. When we go to 120, everything changes. So she gets some more HP. The big thing here, though, is that she goes up to 428 attack. That is a pretty huge amount for her, and it's almost entirely all in base stats, which means that attack boosts will be good for her as well. And then she gets an agility boost, which is very welcome as well. This puts her agility into a super usable range. Now her EX job abilities at level 19, her countdown, the doom effect becomes 3 turns to kill a unit instead of 4. So obviously I'm pleased about this for my tower unit. That's going to be great. It doesn't really have a lot of applications for PvP though. Then we have the HP up level 1, which will give you 15 slash resist and 15 pierce resist, which is a really cool thing to get from a passive. However, her resists aren't that great to begin with, so that's going to put her slash resist at 10, and then her pierce resist is going to go up to 10 as well. And to be honest, that's not terrible. That's a good starting point. That could give, you know, her, if you build slash resist or pierce resist enough, then she could actually take a few hits from those attack types. And then finally, at job level 25, she gets Buster Fist, which is a 30 AP, 170% mod. And this has a chance to inflict Berserk and Confusion. And those are very similar stats effects, except Confusion can be removed way more easily than Berserk can. So you have the chance to hit both of these, and I really like that. So you can raise her faith and then make sure that when she uses this, that she has that shot of getting one or both or the other of these stats effects. And that's actually going to take a unit fully out of action. So I think this is really strong. It can hit multiple units. I think if you're going to use her in some kind of PvP, this is going to win you matches. That's how good it is. The thing is, when you have status effects that are not on limit bursts, their status or chance to proc is a lot lower. So it's not going to happen every time, but it's still good because this is also one of her, you know, stronger attacks. So she's just going to be using it anyway. And then on her board, if you go to job level 25, you're also going to get some more luck, and then you're going to get some more crit. But we don't really need to think about going to 115 or to 120 with her. We just need to go all the way to 120 because her shards are free. So this is a new chart that I'm going to be using in my unit reviews, as it shows you some pretty useful information. So we can see there's level 99, level 115, and level 120 stats, and then the difference column will show you the difference between going from level 115 to 120. So when we look at this, we can say, well, for HP, if you go those extra 5 levels, you're going to get 255 more HP. If you go those extra 5 levels, you're going to get 53 attack, and that's all going to be base attack, which affects her 150% store buff, which is pretty ridiculous. So that means that she can do quite a bit of damage if she can successfully pull off a store attack. And then her agility does not increase, and that's something I'll point out if it increases or doesn't increase from 115 to 120, because agility increasing would be a pretty big deal. So, and then her dex and her luck, not a big difference here either. But again, free shards, just go to 120 if you're going to EX her. So for comparisons, this is actually really interesting. Raldor compares, you know, a little bit worse to Etre. She's got more attack. She has, you know, better dex, better luck, better agility. The only thing he has her beat in is his AP and his HP, and then also, of course, the defense. Now, there are some other differences. Raldor gets his fire attack up. Raldor is going to have way better potency and, you know, modifying attacks on his pugilist sub. He can stack 40 strike attack. He can stack a bunch of defense penetration. He's able to use things like Saintly Wall and Sentinel and all sorts of other buffs for himself and for his allies. He has a complete kit, and he also has way better resists than Etre does. So while Etre does looks really favorable on the stat line here, you know, Raldor has so much more in his kit than she does. But for a brand new player joining the game, Etre would be doing, you know, pretty good damage for that player, and I think that she'd actually be doing pretty good damage for a lot of people if they were specifically going to build around her, her damage and maybe an Earth team. She would actually be worth taking a look at. Now, Ziza is the other comparison for us because she is a 120 monk, and you can see that, yeah, she gets more attack than Etre does, and just more stats all around than she does. Nasha is a hidden gem, and I don't know that she's necessarily that hidden because she's been featured on YouTube. You can go to Mychin's YouTube account. I'll actually link the video in the description for you guys, and you can see Nasha taking on, you know, top level Japan PvP in the arena, taking on King Mont teams, taking on the meta that we're seeing right now, and she's crushing it. Like, she's really, really good. I actually think that people that didn't get King Mont could tide themselves over with her if they wanted to. So at level 99, she was not a particularly impressive unit, except that she has, you know, that HP and that defense. Now, the big thing with tanks isn't just their stats, it's also their resistances, and her resistances are very, you know, usable. So at 120, she's going to get a boost to agility, that's really huge, a boost to HP, and even like a pretty sizable boost to her attack. Now we're going to take a look at her EX abilities. The first one she gets will change her Paladin's Guard proc chance from 20% to 30%, and that's actually pretty significant. So being able to reduce damage every time you take it, it's just a huge skill. Then Saintly Wall is going to reduce all damage by 50%, so it's going to be like Magic Barrier and Saintly Wall are combined. You just get to reduce all types of damage, and again, that's really huge. This effectively can make her a magic tank in that she could take, you know, 1 or 2 hits from a magic user, no problem, because cutting it by half, even if you have, like, if you've given her Fenrir and you have Fenrir VC or whatever, like, that's actually going to make a significant difference. And then at job level 25, she gets a new skill called Divinely Veil. Now this is a self buff with 24 TP. It increases her single target resistance by 25%. It's going to nullify poison, stop, and mobilize, and it has 3 uses. So this is really crazy to me. You're going to have pretty okay resists, you can stack a lot of defense, and then if she uses this single target resist, that's like increasing all of her resistances across the board by 25%. specifically for single target resist, but if she gets hit with Holy, that's like 25% towards her magic resist. If she gets hit by a Titus Jet Shot, that's like 25% towards her slash resist. So it's a super powerful skill, and if you combine all three of those abilities, plus the way that we can use espers and equipment to stack things now, you can make a pretty serious Nasha build, and we're going to take a look at one in a second. Alright, again, we're going to take a look at this difference column and then see how big a deal it is to go from 115 to 120. So admittedly, I need to say that MR shards are actually pretty hard to get in War of the Visions. You can farm them faster in hard quests, but then you're taking up UR slots. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing anymore, because you know, a lot of people that have been playing a long time have finished a bunch of URs, so you could put some other URs in the back burner and work on some MRs, and I just don't know if you want to spend Visior on them or not. I think this would be the case where you might spend Visior on an MR unit, because this is really going to fill a niche in spot in your account. So when we look at the difference between 115 and 120, there's a 700 HP jump. There's also going to be a little bit of a attack boost, but you know, whatever. And then that attack 42% is if you use her Dragoon sub, by the way, and you use that Dragon's Kin, it's going to give her 127 attack. There is no agility difference, and there is no defense difference. So really, you're going 5 levels to get that 120 skill, which is essential in my opinion, but you also get 700 HP, so you can feel good about that too. Now we're going to do some comparisons for her, and the first one is regular Mont, and I've chosen him because he is an MR tank that got an EX job. Now the problem with the comparison is that Mont got an EX job, and his job that he got EX'd is not a tanking job. His lore job is a DPS job, so he doesn't get quite the same type of you know, stats that Nasha does, or skills that Nasha does. But stat wise, you can see she gets more HP, and she gets, you know, she doesn't compare really with like defense, because he has a master ability that gives him a bunch of defense, but otherwise, like, they're fairly comparable. And I'm also going to use King Mont because he's obviously, you know, the big tank in the game right now. And you can see that, you know, besides some really big differences like agility, she's actually not that far off in terms of her defense compared to his defense. If you were going to scale both of them, you could get them to similar levels. Their HP is in similar levels. Now, King Mont has all the support of these, you know, VCs that are coming out. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you're going to build something for Nasha, we can do something with that. So when you go look at Maichin's video, you're going to be able to see his build, but I've also put together a sample build here as well. So these are the stats that you can get with her. Almost 9k HP, you're going to be able to get 76 defense, you can get 21 spirit, 67 agility, and then you can also get some pretty good resist. Sorry, I pressed that a little too early. So 15 slash resist, 30 pierce, 15 strike, and then 5 projectile, and negative 20 to magic. But you could have Fenrir to go to 0 for that on your team. So she's using a TMR sword, and I've used the Vermilion. You don't have to use that. She has the pod, what is it, 153, and then the plat armor. Now, some of you might not have the plat armor if you're new to the game. If the next time we have class match, you will be able to get a plat armor if you put in even a little bit of effort into it. This is going to give you 20 defense and a whole lot of HP. Now, you can easily slot a golden armor into here instead for more slash resist, but you will lose 3 agility. The reason I use the plat armor is because it does not dock her agility at all, and she has low agility. So we're also going to use the Golem Esper, and it's going to give her that, you know, that pierce resist and that defense. And then we're also using the Leonis Castle Vision card, which gives her 15 defense and 15 spirit. And then she has Holy Knight's Protection for 12 defense, and then HP level up, it's going to give her some HP as well. So one thing to mention on top of this is that she has 33 single target resist with her Pod 153 and Divinely Veil skill active. That means that you can increase all of those resists by 33% if they're a single target attack. That is a serious amount of resist and a serious amount of defense. So even with defense penetration, she can take a lot of damage. I ran a lot of the popular units through the damage calculator on WarDivisionsCalc.com, and she was taking minimal damage from them. And I wasn't even considering reducing that damage by 50% with Saintly Wall. So the one thing I'll mention is that you could put other espers for other resists in here, and you could lose 50 in defense, and it wouldn't be the end of the world if you wanted to use Siren for slash resist, or Demon Wall, or whatever you want to use for this build. But you can look at the numbers here, they don't lie. The biggest thing is her agility. She's not going to deal damage like King Mont can, but she can tank for you, and you know who she can tank? 2B, because 2B's wind, 2B uses strike and slash. She can take care of those with her resistances quite fine. Now finally, we're going to take a look at Yerma. Now Yerma's kind of interesting. She reminds me a lot of Elda, not necessarily in the skills that she got, but in the role that she might play in your team. So oh sorry, I went too fast again. Looking at her level 99 stats, she had some good ones, right? So a little bit of defense, a little bit of agility, and she had decent attack at the time that she came out. Her HP was low and her luck was low, but otherwise, she looked pretty good. When we go to 120, she is going to get a big HP boost. She is going to get a huge attack boost, and her agility is not going to change. Now, if we look at her first ability, she's going to get a pretty interesting change to Full Bodied Blow. It's going to become an instant cast, so it did have a cast time. Full Bodied Blow has a 270% potency. It's I think that's like the strongest attack in the game, or maybe it's weaker than Flare, but it's way up there. It only hits directly, in the panels adjacent to her, so she has to be up close and personal, but it is a crazy attack, and it can seriously hurt some people. Then she gets Knee Breaker potency upgraded to 165, which is significant, and then it becomes 100% hit tack. Now she's going to use this if she needs it. Otherwise, she's not going to use it. It's going to be similar to Auron's 100% attack. So this is just a really solid upgrade. She'll probably just use Launch anyways when she doesn't need it, because that will crit way more often. But this is still going to be a really powerful attack. Plus, it has the potential to immobilize somebody, which is a really good status effect. And then her new skill is called Great Tomahawk, and it's a range skill. It has 24 AP cost, 165 mod, and it increases her defense penetration by 50%, and it breaks physical barriers. So this is really good, all packed into one skill. However, it is the worst form of defense penetration that there is. So remember, our top ranking defense penetration is when it's baked into a passive or a master ability. The next best thing is when it's a TP skill and you can make them use it at the beginning of a battle. The worst type of defense penetration is on a skill, an attack, because they have to use that attack successfully to make sure that this happens. And there are other attacks, and the way the battle goes, if they die, whatever it is, they might not use this. So for example, I think this is maybe one's range longer than Launch, but if you get into the same range as Launch, I'm wondering if she's going to use like one over the other. Now I think she'll probably use this because it will increase the defense penetration and then hit them. And if they have a barrier, she'll also use this to break a barrier. So I don't anticipate too much of a problem, but there is just that extra layer of a step that you have to take to get everything up and rolling. And then before she can use a full bodied blow with a 50% defense penetration. So it's a little bit of work, and the question is really, is she bruisery enough to survive getting up close and personal to use this fantastic kit that she now has? Okay, again, let's take a look at this boost from 115 to 120. Should you just stop at 115 and not get the defense penetration? Well, you're going to get 295 HP if you go from 115 to 120. You're going to get another 66 attack, which is pretty good, and 36 of that is going to be base attack. Now she uses her passive that gives 24% attack. That's going to give her about 112 attack based on her base stat. And then of course she does not get any extra agility, so you don't have to worry about that. I do think that she is a 120 candidate because of that skill, because she gets 66 attack I think that's going to be really important. I think it's the same thing with Elda, that he needed his 120 skill that gives him pierce resist, pierce penetration. That's super important. Now, I think that when you look at the two of them, and actually I'll go to the comparison slide here. When you look at the two of them, they're very similar in their attack value and their defense penetration that they can get. Yerma gets more utility, and it's on her main kit. She gets the barrier break, she gets the 100% hit attack, and she can hit diagonally, which is something Elda can't do. Elda has a spear, he can only poke in one direction apparently, and he has to equip a sub job like monk or samurai in order to hit those diagonal spaces. Elda is really tricky to use because he has to get up close and personal. Now, I use movement TMR on him to get 1+ move, so he goes to 4 all the time. That's huge for him to get up close and personal and just start wrecking house. I've been using him in PvP and guild battle since he came out, which is the 1-year anniversary, and I've been doing just fine with him. And I think Yerma is going to be very similar. Now, the difference here is that Elda has 20% slash resist, and that will help him survive a lot in this current meta. Yerma does not have good resistances, and I honestly think that is the biggest difference. I think those resistances are going to stop her from surviving unless you have a dedicated tank, and then you give her some AoE resist. Maybe you give her King Mon's TMR, and then the pod 153, so that she has single target resist and she uses a skill for AoE resist, and then she can be on the periphery of the tank and get hit with an AoE and survive, because otherwise she's going to die without having done anything, and that's really a shame. The other comparison I'll give is Stern, because again, he's that original 120 crew, and he is also a super powerful unit, but he has something that Yerma doesn't. He is able to be built for evade, and she can't. She's has the luck and agility that are not bad, but they're not quite good enough, and she doesn't have any evade skills. I don't think she has any evade skills, but what Yerma does have is one move on her sub kit, so she can use a passive for that, and then she'll be able to move up faster, and then that frees up her TMR slot, where with Elda, I really do need him to be using that movement TMR. It's time for the verdict, and before I share that with you, I just want to mention to everybody, please, be careful about where you're getting your information from, and be careful about getting set in any decisions or opinions. There's so many units that have worked out that people say they're not going to work out. In my opinion, King Elda. Units that people pass on like Liart because they're just a rare unit. I used Liart to get to top 100 live PvP last CM, and I'm currently using her in top 100 arena PvP to take out 2B and Titus. So she's got a lot of mileage and can do quite well, and the same can go for other low rated units or units that you might not necessarily think are that good. So for example, you could look at things like Japanese tier lists, or like certain other people's opinions or whatever it is, and they might not think much of certain units, or they might be sharing information that doesn't give you enough context or enough supporting facts. They're just giving you an opinion that says the result. It doesn't share with you how they got to that conclusion. So please think for yourself. Look at the information on War of the Visions Calc. I try to provide that balance of enough information to support my facts of why I'm giving you, I'm telling you why Yerma might work or why she might not work. I'm not just saying Yerma won't work. I'm giving you a full logical explanation of why. So I hope that helps. So let's take a look at this. So why build MR or lower? And I'm going to give you a reason for that. So one is they're stronger than you might think vis-a-vis Liart. They're great in cost-limited content. They're good for character selection quests in the future. There's no reason not to build them over time when you pull their shards naturally throughout the months. Just think about saving up those Blossoms of Paradise for them if you want to use them. The next MR unit that I'm going to be building is the Ramada EX job. I'm really excited for that one. Now, for these specific units, Etre, I think everybody should build. I think that's going to be really safe to do that. It's just doing it when you're ready for it to be able to share those blossoms. If you're not going to pull for a unit until FF7, then yeah, you can build some of these other EXs. And then Nasha is a maybe, and I think if you don't have a physical tank, or if you don't have a tank in general, then you could strongly consider building her. I think it would definitely be worth it. She'll carry you in the ice selection quest whenever that comes. And then Yerma, I'm giving a no to. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think she's going to be a lot of work. I think that experienced players with a lot of resources, not just whales, but people that have been playing from the beginning and have the ability to EX multiple units, then Yerma's going to be a really fun unit to play with. I think she's going to do a lot of damage. She has a lot of utility, similar to kind of how Orin has a lot of utility. But I think that, there's a few things that are tricky for her. One is going to be her survivability, especially because there's so much ice in the meta right now. And then two, you can't, limit yourself to her if it's going to stop you from getting somebody more important. If you're saving up a bunch of viz right now or resources to go get Helena or to go get somebody else in the future and it's closer, then you should probably go for those units over Yerma. But she's always going to be there in the future. You don't have to EX her right now. You can EX her later on, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun playing with her. Alright, so that is going to be it. We'll quickly mention what the next wave will be. So we're expecting the next wave of EX job units to be Ayaka, Frederica, and then Murmur. They all look good. Frederica is really interesting. She's getting defense penetration, but she also gets missile resist penetration. Ayaka is going to be, her healing power gets upgraded. She's going to be able to increase other units' defense penetration and even restore their AP. So lots of cool stuff there. And then after that, we're going to get the Masashi, Ramada, and Mish EX jobs. I am going to EX job from this list 4 out of the 6. I'm going to take Ayaka. I'm also going to take Masashi and Ramada, and I'm also going to work on Frederica a little bit slower. So I'm really excited about these units, and I can't wait to try them out when they finally do come out. That's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm tired. I'll see you all for the next video.